Hi guys. Today we'll be talking about one of my favorite topic. It's relational idolatry. In counseling or psychology, this is also called codependency, people pleasing, and things like that. So let me share my screen. Let me just share my screen. So this is something that is usually typical in Asian countries, I think. So altars of the heart, offering our hearts in relational idolatry, emotional and spiritual intelligence 101. So the main question for this now, how do you know if you have relational idolatry? You are worshiping your relationship with the person. The relationship with the person um is your security more than God. You know. Personally, I think it depends on this question, no. If you know that the Lord is prompting you to do something, but it will disappoint your family or spiritual leader or someone important to you, will you obey? Right? So if your first answer here is obey, I'll pay the price, I'll take the consequence of obeying God, then you are worshiping God more than your relationship with these people. If your answer is definitely no, then you know that you are valuing these people and this relationship more than God. But a lot of us will be in between, right? You'll be struggling on it, asking God, praying for it, praying for strength and timing, how to communicate that, right? So this is one simple way to know. Let's talk about, so when you talk about altars, no, it means that there's someone that you're worshiping. There's a God. So let's define worship. The worship comes from the Old English worship, worship, which means to give worth to. Or in secular context, it can mean to hold on to something in high esteem. In a biblical context, the Hebrew word for worship is shaka. Sorry if I mispronounced that, which means to depress, to fall down, to lay prostrate before a deity. It is to hold something up to with such reverence, honor, and esteem that your only desires to bow before it. God specifically mandates that the focus of this type of worship be towards Him and Him alone. So worship is, falling down, lay prostrate before a deity, to give worth to value God before anything else, right? Merriam-Webster said it is to regard with great extravagant respect, honor, and devotion. So it's idolatry. It's the worship of idols, images, or anything that is not God. So in this talk, we will talk about feelings as or relationships as idol, the worship of false gods, excessive attachment or veneration for anything, respect or love which borders to adoration. Idolatry is image worship or divine honor paid to any created object. Paul describes the origin of idolatry on Romans 1:21-25. Men forsook God and sank into ignorance and moral corruption. Sabi ni Easton Bible Dictionary. The worship of a physical object as a god, immoderate attachment or devotion to something. So idolatry is basically worshiping another more than your creator, which is God or Jesus. Hmm. The altar. The altar is usually a raised structure or place in which sacrifices are offered and incense is burned for worship. A table or place which serves center of worship or ritual, often used with to refer to an act of getting married. Yeah, so getting married is also a worship, no, an altar. Offering your life and to God and to that person. Structure in which offerings are made to a deity. Hebrew word for altar is mitzbiach, which means to slaughter, and Greek renders this word as to siasteron, a place of sacrifice. So that's according to Baker's Evangelical Dictionary. So the altar is the place where you put your offering, basically. And it includes slaughter. It includes death. When there's an altar, there's usually sacrifice or death. So altars and idols of the heart. So when there's an altar, again, there's an offering. There's a god or an idol. What's happening is there's a worship that is being proved of. Um, you are proving to your God that you're worshiping him or her. And there's this person that's doing the offering. So let's go with relational idolatry. Relational idolatry is a term used to describe an extreme emotional, social, or physical dependence upon a person other than Christ. It can be seen as obsession with another person's behavior and the results that result in an inability to prioritize responsibilities and manage one's own life. So if your relationship is extremely dependent, on a person other than Christ, that you are like obsessed with this person, and it's causing you to fail on your responsibilities in life, on your personal responsibilities, and to manage your own life, then this is relational idolatry, because you're choosing that person, that relationship over God. The behavior of the person caught in relational idolatry becomes motivated by a goal of keeping another person happy. So you will violate your conscience just to keep that person happy, maintaining peace and avoiding conflict. Codependency is another term that's often used to describe relational idolatry. Um, we'll have examples of that later. So in close relationship involving a lot of emotion, it is easy to begin to transfer the source of your identity and the source of authority to another person. So when that person is the source of your identity, you are valuable because you're married to that person. You're valuable because you're connected to that president, right? You're valuable, and your authority is him. Like if it says you're ugly, then you feel bad about yourself. If it says you're you're good, then you feel good about yourself. You have no thought. You have no think. You're not thinking anymore. Whatever that person says, that becomes true to you, right? And that's a really annoying life, right? When you don't have a voice, just the voice of that person, right? You'll be very resentful being in this relationship for long. So altars and idols of the heart. So in a relational idolatry, the idol is the connection as security, or fear of abandonment, or fear of rejection and conflict. So your connection is your security. If you're okay with that person, you're okay. If you're not okay with that person, you cannot fulfill your function for the day. Right? Fear of abandonment. You're so scared. You'll do everything for that person not to abandon you. Fear of rejection and conflict. So you don't want to be rejected by that person to the point of, sacrificing your voice. You don't really want to make that decision, but you made it, even if it's against your conscience, against your preferences, because you fear rejection and conflict. That's how much you fear rejection and conflict with that person. Values, preferences. So the offering here is your voice, your values, your preferences, your time, your resources, and your self-respect. If you find yourself, losing your self-respect, losing your health, losing losing a lot in your life because you have to maintain this relationship, and you're not receiving anything, usually this is how it works, no? So that person could be your idol. So other way to know it, no? If you have relational idolatry, are you proficient at reading other people's feelings or needs? Are you always anticipating other people's needs? So you see that person, and when they're angry, you anticipate their needs obsessively. Again, if you love a person, obviously you will anticipate their needs, and that should happen in peace. You enjoy, you love this person, so you anticipate their needs. You want to provide for it, but relational idolatry is grounded in fear and anxiety, fear of abandonment, fear of being rejection. So there's so much anxiety happening there, and the only way to appease it, the anxiety, is for that person to like you, to approve of you, right? You're obsessed with someone else's thoughts about you, attracted to needy people. So these are usually the characteristic of someone who is prone to idolatry, the relational idolatry. You're blindly loyal. So you woke up one morning and you have a black eye. Your face is swollen. You were abused by this person, but you're staying in the relationship. You're not even having him accountable for what happened. Your loyalty doesn't make sense. You have no boundaries. You feel angry, trapped, and victimized. Is one good proof, no, that you are in a relationship that is idolatrous. Feels angry, you feel trapped, victimized, unappreciated, resentful, and used. You're a perfectionist. You're controlling. You feel overly responsible for other people's feelings and behavior. So when people are upset, you think it's about you. You think every feeling is about you. You feel the urge to rescue people when they're uncomfortable. So these are, if you have this, no, you're more prone to relational idolatry. You have difficulty identifying and expressing feelings. So you just keep quiet even if you're very angry. You keep quiet even if you don't agree with something, right? Because your voice is not important for you. Hmm? You're afraid of being hurt or rejected by others. You have difficulty in making decision because of what other people will say. Peace is determined by how others are feeling or behaving. You tend to harshly judge, and nothing is ever good enough. Now, this is another thing. You are never good enough, and no person is good enough. You always have you harshly judge yourself or others. You don't know when it's okay to talk about problems outside your family. Okay? This is from Christian Life Ministries. This is the reference. So, in the Filipino context na po, ito po yung mga questions that we want to answer. Kapag tumutulong ka ba sa pamilya o kamag-anak o kaibigan, ginagawa mo ba ito dahil talagang gusto mo? O dahil natatakot ka na magalit sila or masamain ka? And so, we'll not be reading all of this. Kapag hindi ka ba nakatulong o nakapagbigay, nakakaramdam ka ba ng matinding hiya o guilt na parang may kasalanan ka? Nakakaramdam ka ba ng obligasyon na laging tumulong magbigay dahil sa utang na loob kahit sobra na sa kapasidad mo? Naapektuhan ba ang overall mood mo? Depende kung okay ka o hindi ang mood ng taong malapit sa'yo. So whenever someone is, another person's mood dictates your mood. Wala ka ng sariling mood. Wala kang sariling opinion, wala kang sariling mood, wala kang sariling emosyon, right? It's like you're an extension of another person. You have no individuality, right? That you will be prone to idolatry. You will be prone to resentment and mental health issues if you stay there. May tendency ka bang magsabi ng oo para lang iwasan ang gulo o tensyon kahit labag sa loob mo? No? So, again, if you say yes to most of this question, then there's a big possibility that you are idolizing your relationship with someone, maybe to an authority, your mom, your dad, your pastor, your president, right? Or your spouse, right? And you're putting them first before God. But we also have to take note now that there are personal strongholds. These are the past trauma and generational inherited strongholds. There are also cultural strongholds, like here in the Philippines. Now we revere the elders so much that sometimes we revere the elders or our parents or the leaders more than we revere God. And in that case, if you are choosing, if you're choosing anything apart from God, that's idolatry, right? Cultural strongholds is agreements with Satan's values in our society, and that's highly acceptable here in the Philippines. Cosmic strongholds, these are atmospheric, angelic, and demonic hosts. So these are strongholds of maybe the city, stronghold of the country, and stuff. If there is unrepented sin in that place. So these are all affecting the way we relate and if we will have an idol or not. But this is another thing that we want to consider na po. This is part of the personal stronghold. Personal stronghold. So this is Abraham Maslow's what is this? Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Yeah, so this is physiological needs, safety and security, love and belonging, self-esteem, and self-actualization. So I want to also be very careful when we talk about idolatry, because the definition is very simple. But if you want to know the root of it, no, usually it's rooted in our development. How are we developed? How is our childhood? How are we growing up? Are there trauma in the past that you need to deal with, right? So, for example, there's a lot of developmental stage theories, but here we'll be using Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Physiological needs. These are basic: food, shelter, and clothing, safety and security, love and belonging, self-esteem, and self-actualization. So this is the peak. If this had been provided well, then you will self-actualize, meaning morality, you're creative, spontaneous, you have, your purpose, you have meaning, you are complete as a person, it just doesn't happen really, not it rarely happens. Only few people reach the self-actualization part. So if in self-actualization part, you still choose to worship another God other than Jesus, then that's idolatry. Because you have all the faculties, you have all the needs that you need, all the you were developed, you were provided for, you're a whole person that has the ability to decide, but you still decided to love that person more than God, or to be obsessed with that person more than God, then that's idolatry. But there are people that are wounded, like when they were growing up, there's no physiological needs, no safety and security, there's no love and belonging. So I think here is where we get to have idolatry, right? If the love and belonging was not provided for. So usually it will ache when when you become an adult. It will be painful for you. Um, so you might get it from another person instead of God. So that's something we understand and that's something we want to heal, right? So that you don't have to idolize on a person that is imperfect, that a person just like you, that they cannot really a person that cannot really meet all your needs, the person that cannot really fully satisfy you, right? So to keep you from idolizing a relationship, we need to heal on what stage of development we lack. Is it in the self-esteem stage? Is it in the safety and security? Is it in the physiological needs? Do you grew up poor, so you're obsessed with someone that's rich? Did you grow up without shelter, or did you grow up without um, property or security? You're insecure, so you get your security from your relationship or from your popular spouse, right? So again, this is something that we understand, but this is not an excuse for having an idol because we have given all the grace to say no to idolatry. But this is something I presented so that you would know what part of your childhood has to heal, what need is lacking that is causing the idolatry. So this is Eric Erickson's developmental stages of psychosocial development. So infancy, early childhood, school age, adolescent, young adulthood, middle school, middle adulthood, maturity. So here, ideally, if there's a milestone that needs to be developed in you, like trust or mistrust, autonomy or shame and doubt. So again, this is a theory. This is one way to look at the development stage of a person. So if in along the developmental stage you missed a milestone like identity versus role confusion, usually happens. No, if the adolescence is not handled well by the parents, so you will lack identity. You don't know who you are. So you will get it from um, fame, you might get it from achievements, or you may get it from relationships. So again, what I'm trying to say is that we want to understand where we are coming from idolatry. We don't want to condemn ourselves. We don't want to condemn other people immediately. We want to learn how to help these people, and especially here in the Philippines, relational idolatry, like being enmeshed with your parents, codependent with your spouse, it's kind of accepted, and it's a stronghold in the culture. So that's something that we really need to ask God for help. So usually, if we also have authoritarian, neglectful, and meshed parent where you don't have boundaries, right? Yeah, the boundaries. Over-involved, parentified, you became the parent in your family, emotionally volatile, dismissive, avoidant parents, manipulative, narcissistic parents. This is really damaging. Overprotective and addicted and unstable. So again, this is not to shame the parents, no. This is to identify the root cause so that you can heal from it, right? The characteristics of relational idolatry: you're needy, you're obsessed with other person's approval. There's fear. You fear the rejection, the reaction of another person. You fear it with your life. You cannot handle it, the rejection, right? And conflict. You're afraid of conflict with this person. You feel responsible for the other person's happiness. So again, if you love a person, if that's your child, um, that's a different thing, right? But if you're talking to an adult, and you still feel responsible for their problems, you're seeing an adult and you feel responsible to take care of their anger, assist them when they have a problem or solve the problem for them. That's not normal, right? Everyone should be responsible for their own lives, not unless you need help. So you want to seek for help, right? You feel that you're controlled and helpless in a situation. You have the need to control or rescue. You can't allow that person to suffer or to be uncomfortable. Why? right? You feel like you have no choice. Wala kang choice. Sa relationship na to, you'll always say yes to this relationship or you will always be manipulated and controlled. That's not relationship. That's what witchcraft with control and manipulation, right? You have a high need to be needed. So that this is where it's coming from. No, your value is when you are needed. So you want to stay in a relationship because you feel like that person needs you. That person needs you to rescue him or her because he's incapable of doing that himself, herself, or herself, right? So if your value depends on being needed and being wanted, that will be very difficult and that will be very unstable. And you will be tired because you're always attending to their needs. And who will attend to your needs, right? So we have relational idolatry because we need connection because of the fall, the sin in our nature, and looking for others to meet the needs. So I'd say no, it's not just looking for others to meet the needs. It's also not us not understanding our needs. We don't know that we need this and that. We need encouragement. We need affection. We need love. We are so focused on other people's needs that we don't provide for our own. So, the cycle continues. You provide, and then you become tired and you burn out, right? So you're not providing for your own needs. You don't even know that you have one, right? So breaking relational idolatry, recognition, confession, and repentance and worship. So how to heal from it? Now we're on down on our last stage. So we want to have non-judgmental judgment, non-judgmental awareness. We want to be aware of what's happening. So if you see yourself like this, you may ask some professional, or whenever you feel anxious, ask yourself, what do I need? How do I feel? Right? Let's start with that, being aware of your body, being aware of your thoughts and feelings, because usually you are so wired with being aware of other people's needs, providing for them, being aware of other people's discomfort and anxiety and solving it for them, but you are not aware of your needs, right? So it's not provided for. No one is providing it for you because you don't even know that it exists. You don't even know that you have your needs as well, right? So how to heal? Number two, give God space. So whenever you're anxious about the relationship, will she break up with me? Will he break up with me? Uh, will my dad reject me? Or what's that? The itakwil? Ano ba yun? Disown? Will my parents disown me? Will God be angry with me? Right? So give God a space over that anxiety. So just, you can imagine in your mind that you're opening a chair, you're taking a chair beside you, and God will be there in that empty chair, right? And give him time to speak to you. Give reverence to the Lord's insight and opinion over your situation. Give God space over your anxiety. Let him help you over that anxiety. So again, identify the truth, the lie, and the irrelevant beliefs. The truth, because the truth will set you free. So, for example, when you are a codependent, or when you have relational issues, you're easily manipulated, right? So you always have to check the truth. For example, that person is really the one who's cheating, but he will accuse you of cheating, even if you're not. So what's the truth, right? Or he will accuse you that you are at fault, even if he's the one who did the the cheating, right? That's how manipulative people are. You have to be aware. You always have to seek for the truth. And what is the lie and the irrelevant beliefs? If you keep on believing that it's your fault, that's why he cheated, hmm, you will be stuck in this lie because it is only the truth that will set you free, right? If you keep believing on lie, then you'll feel stuck, unhappy, resentful. That's something that we don't want to stay in, right? Study and observe your trigger patterns. So if you can take note of the things that triggers you and stuff and patterns and try to intervene. So this is something that a therapist can help you with. Pray for the one who can help you and keep a good relationship with them. Calculate the cost of healing. So for the calculate the cost of healing and decide on your identity, purpose, and boundaries. If you lack on the development, or you failed in the developmental stage of identity, then you will have to make a conscious choice. Who am I? What's my identity? What's my purpose? Or the best here is to ask God, right? So you have to make a decision to ask God. on what's your identity and purpose and boundaries. And that's intentional. Because if not, you will go to your default, which is a person with no boundaries, a person that is um a person that is abused by others because you don't feel valuable to be respected, right? So you have to decide, no, I will not accept this abuse. I will not accept this cheating. I will not accept this kind of treatment. So stay in a community that can help you heal and grow in God. There. So other helpful thoughts excuse me, allow for sowing and reaping in other people's lives. Um, our actions have consequences. So if you keep allowing people to abuse you, allowing people to break your boundaries, it will have consequences, right? To you and to your children, right? Respect other people's boundaries as well. So if they asserted their boundaries, you want to respect that because usually if you don't have boundaries, you don't respect other people's boundaries as well. You go to their space without them allowing you to. You open their phones, right? So you have to respect other people's boundaries as well, so that your boundaries will be respected. Be aware of that the setting boundary may result in pain and rejection, and it is often what? Be aware of setting a boundary may result in pain and rejection. So since they're not used to you having boundaries, be ready for rejection and that uncomfortable feeling of being rejected. Rejected is not always bad. If it's for the good of you and your future and the people around you, then it's a good thing, right? The fact that someone has a problem doesn't mean that you have to solve it. Consider the resources before saying yes. If someone wants to ask you for money, ask yourself, do I have extra money? Or do I have to sacrifice my food for the month just to just to give him or her money? And if you have to sacrifice your needs regularly for other people, you will have to reflect on that. Why? Why are you doing that? Are their needs more important than yours? Right? Learn not unless this is God's leading to you, then God will provide for you if that is a test of faith. But if it's because of an impulse, the impulse of helping people and the fear of being hated by that person dahil wala kang pakisama because you're not a good person, then that's not good. That's codependency. It's disrespecting yourself. And then that's not good. So learn to relax and nurture yourself. So learn to understand that you have a body, you have thoughts and feelings, you have needs, and that's something we respect. We respect you, right? So practice respecting yourself, respecting your thoughts, your feelings, your decisions, your mistakes, your success, everything that is about you. You have to understand that you exist and not just other people, right? And you need to provide for your needs as well, or allow other people to provide for your needs. Okay, that's it. We will end with this verse, Ephesians 6, 5-6. Servants, be obedient to those who are your physical masters, having respect for them and eager concern to please them in singleness of motive with all your heart, as service to Christ, right? So you want to serve them ultimately as service to Christ, not in the way of eye service and only to please men, but as servants of Christ, doing the will of God heartily with your whole soul. So not only to please men, but doing the will of God heartily with your whole soul, rendering service readily with goodwill as to the Lord and not to men. So ultimately, everything we do, every decision we make should be unto the Lord and not to men, not to please men, not to please relationships, not to get their validation that we did not get when we were a child. Everything should be for the Lord. There. So thank you for listening. I hope you learned something from this and have a great day today.